Hey class, I'm going to show you how to render out your final project. So once you have your character and it's all nice and retopologized, we're just going to export two different playblasts. And to make your playblast nice and pretty, let's go ahead and turn on anti-aliasing. That removes the jagged edges. Let's also turn off our grid, that's right here. And we want to get rid of any other little things in our viewport, so we can do that under display, heads up display. And if you grab this little bar right here, it'll pop this window out. We just want to uncheck everything in here, so we're only looking at our mesh. So the first playblast we want to do is a 360 around our guy with no wireframe. So we can do this two ways. We can spin our guy around, or we can spin the camera around. I'm going to rotate the person. So make sure all of your geometry is in a group, and with your rotate tool, let's set a keyframe with S on frame 0, and let's make our time slider 100 frames long. We'll go to frame 100, and we'll spin them all the way around to make sure this is right at 360. So now when we play it, he spins around nice and neat. But by default, this is easing out and easing into these keyframes. So I'm going to change these keyframes to linear. So I can go to Windows, Animation Editors, Graph Editor, and I'll select these keyframes that I've set, and you can see visually the curve here. If I hit this straight line, it'll set this to a straight diagonal line, and you'll see the difference is now he's just spinning constantly. There's no ease in or out. And so this is the first thing we want to render out. So we will frame up our camera how we like it, and right click and hold to make a playblast. We'll go to our options box. We'll use the image. We'll use a PNG, and we'll use we'll scale it at 1. Make sure to save it to your folder. And Playblast. Okay, so we've got our first playblast done, and we want one more, and we want to show the wireframe, show all that nice retopology work you did. So just turn on the wireframe on shaded button, and then we can see our topology on top of our model, and we'll just render out another playblast. So make sure to change your output folder so that it doesn't overwrite it. And we'll playblast that. And make sure you don't move your camera angle so that we have the exact same sequence from the wireframe and the non-wireframe version. Because what we want to do is we'll jump into After Effects, and we'll make a nice little shot for your reel to show off your model that you made and your retopology. So we've just playblasted two image sequences, and that's not very useful for showing off because it's just a bunch of images. So open up After Effects and double click in your project panel. Find where you saved your renders to. And I can just grab this file path. And so we'll bring in our first render. You can just select one of the images, make sure sequence is ticked, and import. And now drag this onto the new composition button right here. And now we've got our first playblast. Let's go ahead and bring in our second one. Again, double click, go to your folder, select one of the images, make sure sequence is ticked, and to import. We can drag that right on top of our other one. So now when we toggle on and off these two layers, we can see the wireframe shows up. So what I want to do is just fade this wireframe on as he spins. And so I can hit T to go to my opacity tool, and I want to animate this opacity. So I actually want him to spin twice. So I'm going to go to interpret footage, and I can set this to loop. I'm just going to loop it 10 times. Might as well. And now we need to make our sequence longer, so I'll do Command K to go to my sequence settings, and I'll extend the duration. Now if I zoom out, I have a longer timeline. And actually, it cuts off, so I need to extend this all the way to the end. So I want it to spin once, and then now I want the wireframe to fade on, so I'll set a keyframe. I want to bring the opacity to 0. I'll hit this little stopwatch to set a keyframe. I'll drag my keyframe out. I'll set it to 100 so this wireframe fades on. And he'll spin around one more time, showing off that topology. And right about there is where I'll stop it. So I can hit N, set the end of my work area, and now I can export this. So I'll do Control M, or you can go to File, Export, Add to Render Queue, or Add to Media Encoder Queue. Let's send this to Media Encoder. That's where we'll be able to get our MP4 file type. So Media Encoder will launch. It should load in your After Effects project. Make sure you're set to H.264. That's the MP4 file type. Your preset can just be the high bitrate, match source, and this is where you'll set your output folder and your file name. So I'll just pick my desktop and name it with your name, please. And hit play. So turn in that MP4 in the turn-in folder. Good work, guys. It's been a great semester. Oh, one more thing. If you want, you can add a background. You can put any image in here from Google, or you can just put a solid color in. I'll put a nice blue just behind him, just to give him a little pop. Actually, he looks kind of off-center, so I'm going to grab both these layers and just slide them over. And the reason we did PNG export is because now we have transparency, so we have control over the background, and it's not just the default gray that's in Maya. So if you want, add a fun background. Alrighty, see you guys in class.